top 8 so I can quickly do this.
It's the Mexican. He's here.
Mexican radio.
Look at the Mexicano.
Músico romántico. Or romantica.
96.5.
Hey, there's Larry.
En la mañana.
5.
Hola, Larry.
Univision y Telemundo.
Telemundo. I'm liking our own podcast. That's right.
Is this where the moment where we send this to every single one of our mutuals and they get multiple messages from multiple people?
They just get
mutuals with the same people.
furious at us.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what the fuck?
It's like I'm sure we have some mutuals that aren't related, but we have a lot of mutuals in common.
We sure do. So they probably do be getting annoyed at us.
I think it's our mutuals that are kind of mainly supporting the channel right now. We need to get it to the masses.
Whoa.
What do you think? Is that better or no?
That's pretty cool.
It's pretty.
I fuck with it.
It's not too bad.
We'll see what Cutie thinks.
We're
Might
gonna.
be easier for people to like differentiate, you know.
Cutie pie.
Hello.
Oh no! Wait, hold on.
I'm currently on said toilet.
Taking a big old dump.
No, I'm done. I'm just working on getting off.
Letting the hole breathe.
Yep.
So much for professionalism. I realize, as pretty as this format is, Mr. Cruz, so we had discussed how to finally stop fucking up our intros and outros, which was
It kind of messes it up.
The host would go first, and then it would go bottom to top.
Okay, let me change it back. If I can figure out how to change it.
I mean, even on this, we can still go like bottom
Cutie,
across.
we could barely do it before.
Oh, my order got fucked up. Now I'm all fucked up.
It's fine.
That's
We'll
So what was it? Host and then top to bottom?
Yeah, so it'd be you, me, Muerte. That's all we need.
Bottom to top, host then bottom to top.
Host bottom up. I mean, that makes sense.
I say top to bottom. I'm kidding.
I mean, I don't care as long as we fucking do it correctly.
This is a Soviet split happening right now. It's top only. That's the only thing that matters. Is the only thing that's practiced.
The mass line is more important, you goddamn Leninist.
Oh my god.
You are not following the party program.
Larry has left the chat to construct a bunker away from these revisionists.
So this is a lore episode. This is taking place before the first one. That's why you're in the Albanian bunker.
Yeah, this is the prequel. The origin story.
All right. Are we spamming our mutuals or what are we doing?
I already did.
Oh, okay.
I spammed a couple mutuals. Not many.
No, I only hit a select few because I don't think I think I only hit up people that I don't think that you guys would be mutuals with.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
My special curated list
Why
of.
did you give me the option to send an invite to Praxben? I don't. We're not following.
Yes.
You just make Praxben watch.
That guy that fool was ducking my fades, and he was ducking my hands, and I guess he's supposed to fight another Marxist-Leninist, but I predict that he's just gonna chicken out. And
that clown hasn't fought anything besides his own goddamn meat.
He's supposed to fight?
Yeah.
Physically fight, not like a debate. Like physically fight.
I mean, listen, guys. I promise you, if we have, a boxing match, I will get ripped as shit to beat the fuck out of him.
Oh,
I don't think you have to get that. I'll look like Dolph Lundgren in fucking Rocky IV. If he
W,
dies, he
he-
dies.
He was one of the strongest
I
Rocky.
have a Drago tank top, so I volunteer as tribute, but I think I'm way out of his weight class.
Yeah.
We can go to Creator Clash and just beat up Bash creators.
I mean, I'm welterweight for sure.
I think
What is
I might be
185?
like
what weight class is
heavyweight.
185?
All I'm gonna say is, for most of my career as an adult, was learning how to wrangle other adult men. So, I think I got a pretty
Oh,
decent advantage.
you were wrestling?
Sure. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
All right, so should we go ahead and get started?
I think so. Lead the way.
So I am Compañero Cruz here with Kollectiv. I am a Marxist-Leninist and the people's boyfriend.
My name is Senor Ivan de la Rosa. I am also a Marxist-Leninist. If you sneeze again during my intro, you will be put into the gulag. And I'm here with my friends.
I am Comrade Muerte. I am also a Marxist-Leninist, proudly, and borderline Stalinist. I am here to aid in the revolution for the working class with the podcast with my comrades. We're gonna kill this shit.
Yes, and I am Comrade Larry, the sneezing culprit and free market hojist extraordinaire.
I'm Comrade Cutie Pie, the cutest of the comrades. And I'm a tanky, so fuck you.
I am so proud of us. We did it.
We fucking did it.
It took 7 episodes. Welcome to episode 7 of Kollectiv Podcast Live.
Official start is episode 7.
Yep.
Maybe it's
Also-
episode 9, huh?
I believe the people deserve to know how the cutest of us all looks like. So if you give us all to 1,000 subscribers, share, like, and go comment on our content,
True.
then you
Once we
can
hit
see this
1,000.
cutie pie. Yeah.
Once we hit 1,000, the cutest comrade will reveal just how cute they are, and they will be wearing a bear costume in a Chinese zoo.
I
don't
hate
have
you
the
so
money
much.
for that. Unfortunately,
You don't have any G-Bucks?
I don't have any G-Bucks. I'm sorry, bro.
I thought we
Oh
were
my
getting paid.
God.
I could get you- I
I
could get you
traded them
hooked
in
up with
for
that, bro.
social credit points.
Well, do you have the rubles?
You know, I just don't understand, right? Like, China is, in one way, the monster machine that's going to come and eat all our butts. And on the other hand, they also put humans in bear suits and then put them in the zoo, and then don't have said money that they would use to destroy the world to get a convincing enough costume. And people are just so goddamn brainwashed and xenophobic in the West and the United States that people can't conceptualize that, one, a bear from a different part of the world is going to look different, and two, it's like, yeah, it's a goofy looking bear, but instead of realizing, man, it's a funny looking bear, people's conclusion, and you see it on liberal media, CNN, MSNBC, these fucking hosts saying things like, I can't believe that's not a man in a suit. You know, these Chinese zoos have humans in suits dressed up as bears, and it's like, bro, are you serious right now? Like, you don't think that Chinese have regular zoos like any other person?
Nope. All made of humans in costumes.
Yeah. Well,
They're
it's
forced to be there.
yeah, it's in true it's the culture of hegemony, and in true fascist fashion, the liberals see the enemy as both incredibly strong and pathetically weak at the same time. They play by the rule book of their good friends, the fascies.
They got to be just scary enough to warrant building up military and harassing them, but not scary enough that the people think they will lose if they get into conflict.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean I was going to say if I saw a human bear on the battlefield, I'd probably be pretty scared.
I not to be crass, but I would frankly shit myself if I saw a human bear.
We're going to say more things.
Well,
I mean,
actually,
I'm
fun
kind of a
fact.
human bear, but I'm not that scary, guys. Come on.
Well, to go into a little bit of some Muerte lore, I used to have a nickname growing up because I resembled a bear. I used to be called Bear. I used to be called like Grizz and things like that. That's just something that just came to my head. And
That's
but
so fucking random. They used to call me Grizz.
no, yeah, I know it's super random, but like you guys, if you guys have met a bear before, you guys met me, so there you go.
How do you know I haven't met a bear before?
Or actually, I don't know. You used to wrestle bears, I think, right?
Yeah, exactly. Hot, sweaty bears. But I was just laughing because you said Grizz, and Grizz sounds too much like Glizzy, and I was just like, God
Now
damn
you are
it.
the glizzy
You
guy.
always do this.
Well,
But
you know me and the Grizzlies.
But I don't know. Just American and Western xenophobia always seems to be obsessed with this caricature of bears because, in one hand, you have fake man bears in Chinese zoos, and then you have this stupid ass racist Winnie the Pooh bullshit. You know,
I hate that meme.
The
No,
Winnie
I hate it too. And people try to argue with us and say like, "Oh, well, it's not racist." And I'm like, "Do you know where that picture came from?" It was comparison of Obama walking with President Xi, and
Yes.
the comparison was Winnie the Pooh and Tigger. So you put two and two together what they're saying.
And not only that, but the thing I find hilarious about the Winnie the Pooh thing specifically is people will talk about it and just be like, they banned Winnie the Pooh in China. There is a Disneyland
Yes.
in China with a Winnie the Pooh ride.
Yeah, and I can't wait until we go to Disneyland, like the champagne socialist that we are, and take pictures in front of the Winnie the Pooh exhibit. I think that would go really hard.
That would be great.
Comrade G.
You know who's not a comrade though?
It's not a comment.
Lizzo.
Ooh.
What?
What do you think about the Lizzo?
You mean to tell me that Lizzo, the member of the bourgeois millionaire, is not a comrade?
No. So I actually don't know too much about what was going on. Do you guys want to explain that?
Yeah, I know a
I
little
think
bit.
she was body shaming her dancers. That's it.
Oh no, dude! It's like this whole lore behind it.
Oh,
So,
like religious shaming.
Yeah, no,
all that.
being like a real piece of shit. So let me pull it up here real quick. But basically, what happened is Lizzo is being sued by Lizzo, her like conglomerate corporation, her dance captain are all being sued by a number of dancers that she hired. And I think there's about 10 complaints, and generally the main ones being sexual harassment, religious harassment, physical harassment, things like that. So here I got a quick article. 3 of Lizzo's former dancers filed a lawsuit against her on Tuesday in Los Angeles Superior Court, accusing the Grammy-winning singer and captain of her dance team of creating a hostile work environment while performing concerts on her special tours. So I'm not going to keep reading the whole article, but basically what I was seeing on TikTok, big if true, is that her dance captain was like this super religious woman who like would like not talk about, would be like, you guys can't talk about, vulgar things or whatever, but then she would like openly talk about her own sexual exploits in front of these other women who are, the professional dancers. Like, they just want to do their job. And this woman's over here talking about, like, sucking dick and stuff like that, making people mad uncomfortable. And when the dancers would bring it up to Lizzo, she pretty much would be like, "We'll get over it. Like, she's my homie." And then it escalated from there when Lizzo started to do impromptu auditions for even after the fact when the dancers had already been working for X amount of time. So, like, you know, could you imagine that? Like, you're just at your job and it's like, hey, impromptu performance review. If you fuck it up, like, you're done. And then it's like 12 hours later of these women re-auditioning for their jobs, trying to build a career. And Lizzo wouldn't let them leave, wouldn't let them go use the bathroom, wouldn't let them eat. One woman ended up urinating on herself because she couldn't, you know, was so afraid to lose her job. Like, she's just like, I mean, again, big if true. You just really shouldn't be surprised, though, because this is the bourgeois. These are the people who pull the strings, the people who go to Epstein's Island. Like, there's no reality that these people are good, even if they're singing about, you know, girl boss queens.
Lizzo, deep state, lizard people confirmed is what we're saying. Yes.
And it's one of those things where, like, when you look at bourgeois, especially bourgeois celebrities, it's very evident in this situation that she only did it and got away with it for so long because she held the strings. She holds the power in that relationship, and that's why you should never, anyone listening, should never consider someone like Lizzo to be an ally or a friend.
No, not at all. Even if the music they're making, you know, don't meet your heroes, man. Like, it's not gonna work out, and you know, you've been grifted, you've been bamboozled, and you know, it may seem to be a strange thing to talk about on the Marxist Leninist podcast, but you know, I really hope, you know, to whoever's listening out there, that you start to analyze more about who the artistic aristocracy is in the country, in the world. Who these people are, who do they hang out with?
Yeah, don't meet me. I'm an asshole.
Yeah, he's really cute.
Cute, but jeez.
I know. I'm like an angry bunny rabbit.
You're like a evil
Classic.
Energizer bunny.
Classic thank you jerks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the main story of tonight of what we were going to talk about is what has been going on in Africa. Specifically surrounding the coup that happened in Niger and the subsequent events.
So, is this the case of simply Africa being naturally turmoil, or is there something obviously deeper going on?
This one is definitely clearly the colonial or the colonized countries rebelling against the colonizer countries, specifically in this case France for the most part, although like the other NATO and European and United States are getting involved, but I think what is it, four countries currently that have gone in solidarity with Niger against almost pretty much France specifically, because France is the one that's being most directly impacted by this coup.
So what you're saying is all my homies hate France.
My homies hate France.
All my homies really fucking hate France because, like, if you look at it, the current economic bloc that they're referring to, right? That's caused all this problem is ECOWAS, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is basically a West African trade organization, right?
Yep.
And a vast majority of the currency that those countries use are I forgot what it was called, but it's something franc, right? And it's actually issued by the French Treasury to West African nations, and they're not able to, you know, control their own money, right? And the specific organization, ECOWAS, was established almost immediately after decolonization as a means for the United Kingdom and France in particular to coalesce their previous holdings into a organization that they could easily manipulate to still maintain exploitation of resources.
But I thought that colonization was over.
That's where you put Neo in front of it, big dog.
You put Neo in front of it, and then you don't know who's colonizing who, unless you, of course, look at what languages each of these countries is being forced to speak.
Right.
Of like the French countries, of which there were 11, they were speaking French, and I don't think enough people know like just how much control France has over that those countries, and it causes them to or forces them to use like the franc, for instance. It controls their currency. They can't use their own currency, takes all their resources, and then tries to, blockade everything.
Wherever you go throughout the imperial periphery, the stench of cheese is not far behind.
Jesus, I mean, it's very true, and like Cruz was saying, I mean, if you go and look up Niger and you look up the official language, the top language spoken there is French. Now, obviously, French is not native to the continent of Africa, and the same thing.
What?
You would be surprised, my friend. But the same thing applies here in the United States. I mean, we literally live on a land of genocide, and there are 2.5 Hispanic Mestizo people here on this podcast, and we all speak English. And clearly, where did English come from? Came from Ireland. No, I'm just kidding. But also, Cutie, and his own origins, we're all speaking colonized languages right now. Even Spanish, when we speak in Spanish, that's also colonized language that comes from Europe.
Yeah, so, I'm not speaking my mother tongue either.
Right.
Well, I'm trying to learn Nawa.
Mm-hmm. And really the roots of this go down deep, and people don't seem to understand it, or not provided the educational tools for them to really analyze the situation that is playing out right now in Niger, and the situation that's played out in the global south for the last essentially century. Because when you no longer have official colonial rule, as long as you install a government that will be friendly to the former the former colonizer, who would allow these privatized companies to buy privatized land for cheap and then extract all the resources and bring them back to the home country, that is colonization. That is Lenin's, imperialism, the highest level that capitalism can go to.
Mm-hmm. AKA just monopoly capitalism. But that is the
or as Comrade Kwame Ture said, that it's neo-colonialism, the last stage of capitalism.
Ooh.
Right. Goes hard.
And, I mean, that's precisely why these countries are rejecting what we generally consider to be liberal democracy. It's because while these people are voting for their individual, technically, right? They're the only people that are getting into power are people who are funded by previous colonial powers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
we have a term for them called comprador.
Right. And that's why you see, throughout history, if you look at, again, going back to our example of Niger, you'll see coup after coup, every X amount of years. And it's because, you have a region that is destabilized because of neocolonization. You have people vying for power, and you have people trying to determine their own destiny outside of France. And I have to say, boys, that I'm so proud to see Malay and Burkina Faso stand up and say, you know what, if France or the United States military intervenes with us, you are declaring war on us as well. And it's such a change from the 2011 attack on Libya, where, I was too young to remember exactly what was happening, but at least at the time, it didn't seem like there was many nations in the world really condemning what was happening. It seemed like everyone was just kind of trying to look away from the horror, but it seems like this may be a different case.
There was nobody there. Russia at the time was led by Medvedev, and he was just sort of on the sidelines. Xi had not come to power yet, and I think really, to me, the situation in Libya was a turning point for the unipolar reality that we had lived in, and our move now towards a multipolar world. You've seen, whatever you think of Russia, or even China for that matter, what we've seen post Libya is Russia, at least, being willing to stand against imperialist aggression by the NATO West. We've seen it in Ukraine. We've seen it, we've seen it unfortunately play out in Ukraine. That whole situation is just a fucking mess. But we've seen it in Venezuela, where the U.S. was basically plotting a coup, another one, in 2017 and 2019. And the Russian Federation said, listen, if you do that, you're going to have to deal with our guys too. We're going to militarily intervene. And guess what? The operation put together to, overthrow Venezuela was a pathetic attempt, half-hearted attempt, because, there was going to be real consequences.
Yeah. We're definitely at a stage with imperialist contradictions where these major, extremely major conflicts are going to erupt sooner rather than later.
Right.
So what do you guys, you were mentioning it a little bit, Larry, but as Marxist-Leninists, what do you guys make out of Nigerian civilians carrying Russian flags?
Well, I think they're just trying to gain some allies, and they know that American imperialism and Western imperialism and colonization has done so much damage to Africa, irreversible damage, and they're seeking allies in the East, and Russia has never in their history really exploited Africa at all. I mean, especially not to the extent as America or the West. I believe it was Comrade Abraham that said that Russia wasn't their enemy, and I believe he's seeking allyship with them. So, although current Russia right now isn't communist, they aren't socialist, but they are the only ones currently, and alongside China, challenging Western imperialism and hegemony.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
I was going to say, I think it's also worth noting, it's like, imagine you are in Africa, you're an African leader. Who are you going to side with? Are you going to side with the side of the world that continuously exploited your country to this day, and hold you back from ever gaining true freedom for yourself? Or are you going to support the ones that have never colonized you, are building bridges and sending wheat?
Right, exactly.
It's really not a hard choice whether or not we agree with Russia and the current government, or China and its current government. It's not hard to understand why many African states would simply not want to side with anyone else.
Exactly. Yeah, 100%. We have to look at things materially as Marxists and look at the facts that are being presented. And it's like you've been saying, even if we disagree with Vladimir Putin and Russia, which I do because they're a capitalist country, I don't support them, uncritically, but you have to look at things from the third world's perspective. In the third world, we here in this podcast, we live on the opposite end of imperialism. While we have our own struggles here within the United States, we do not live in we don't live in the same kinds of situations where countries where capitalism, I'm going to say, is more extreme, more advanced, especially in South America, especially in West and Central Africa, where you have such a massive level of exploitation, where our friend JT on Second Thought, he made a video and he pulled out some facts, and he said that France gets 40% of its electrical power from the uranium that is mined from Niger, but only 11% of Nigerians have electricity.
Right.
And it goes back.
And it's ridiculous. You can add on to that Mali has 860 gold mines. France has 0 gold mines. France's gold reserves are in the thousands of tons. Mali's gold reserves are 0. So it goes back to the old Bill Haywood proclamation about the owners of the mines owning the gold through some strange alchemy, though they didn't mine it, they didn't mill it, they didn't find it, etc. So yeah, and when it comes to national liberation movements in the imperial periphery in places like West Africa, for example, that we're talking about right now, you can look at it this way: if they're going through a struggle and they want out from under the boot, they're drowning. And if someone is throwing a lifeline to you when you're drowning, you don't particularly care of the construction of the flotation device that is being offered, right? You just need a hand so you can get on your feet and struggle.
I don't know why I'm imagining someone like in the middle of the ocean. They're just like swimming and a ship comes up and they're like, hey, grab this. And then they look and they see a Russian flag and they're like, oh, no, I'm just going to drown.
That'd be a good meme.
Right.
Like, was this life preserve ethically sourced?
Yeah.
Before I touch it with my hands.
I mean,
it just betrays, it shows the liberal mindset of, they're very idealistic nonsense, really.
right. And what I would say to these liberals who are backing ECOWAS and the international community, what they call it, what I would ask them is this: why would the United States and France care about what happens to black people in Africa? Because those two were some of the most major proponents of chattel slavery and colonization. So you tell me, again, when did these two countries suddenly stop doing that? And again, you're going to have liberals, they're going to look at things very surface level and say, well, they're not a colony anymore, so it's fine. It's not. Again, it goes back to only 11% of Nigerians having electricity, and it goes back to what Michael Parenti said. Empires do not go to poor countries. These countries are not poor. They've never been poor. They're overexploited.
Country is not poor. People are poor.
Exactly. Why would human beings be living there in the first place?
Yeah, the region had nothing. Most people just leave. All right, we're going to move on.
Right, now, exactly. So in this case with, we're seeing sort of a nationalist revolution starting to form, and I think some people who maybe aren't as politically sound might hear nationalist revolution and not really get what that means, because when we think of nationalism, we think of, white nationalism or, nationalism that happened in Germany. So, in this case, what is a nationalist movement in the third world?
I would like to give this a shot. So left-wing nationalism and reactionary, aka, bourgeois nationalism, are two completely different things. Left-wing nationalism is the liberation of a set of people, a group of people who are, connected historically. They're a stable community of people with a common language, territory, economic life, culture. That is that's the left wing. That's what makes a left wing nationalism like something, an actual nation by Stalin's definitions. And
right, it's something that can be measured and quantified as a material reality.
Yeah, and I mean, bourgeois nationalism always is meant to serve the interests of capitalists who were exploiting the people to begin with. Know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think a really perfect example to look at of the difference between bourgeois nationalism and proletarian nationalism could be the difference between like Vietnam, for example, right? Or South Korea, right? Like, you know, the North Vietnamese and South Korea, very different. They were both nationalists, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, extremely different outcomes. You know, today Vietnam has a significantly better standard of living. Most of their important industries at least have some forms of worker control, right? And then you look at Korea, like South Korea, and you can see that, you know, something like 25% of their entire economy is controlled by one corporation called Samsung. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then the other part is Hyundai.
And those people work insane working conditions in South Korea. And, you know, there's a rising schmooicide problem there as well, because obviously, you know, they haven't actually gotten liberated. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They're essentially, a lot of these countries have formed the ability to have their own nation for the most part, to have some degree of self-determination, especially in the case of Vietnam, which completely separated itself from colonial and imperialist powers, versus, say, what a fascist government would do with nationalism, which is who would like to take that one? Because I lost my train of thought.
No, you're good. Honestly, I saw something on an article that I think you guys will get a kick out of. It is related to this situation, but I was just reading an article. This is from BBC News, you know, British state media, propaganda, and they were saying how the former Nigerian president is calling in the United States for help. Because apparently the Russian mercenary group Wagner might be going there, or they are already there.
They're there.
Okay. Now, I'm going to read these two paragraphs to you. The entire Sahel is like the region of that part of the West Africa from the coast inland. The entire Central Sahel region could fall to Russian influence via the Wagner group, whose brutal terrorism has been on full display in Ukraine. Now, here's the kicker. This is the part that made me laugh, and I want to see if you guys are smart. You guys will pick up on it, and if you don't, well, we're ending the podcast. Many supporters of the coup in Niger have been chanting pro-Russian slogans and wearing the colors of the Russian flag.
Hey, well,
the Nigerians are wearing blue jeans. They must be fucking fascists.
Like, bro, they were the same colors.
The same colors.
And France is the same colors too.
Yeah.
Oh, bro, I didn't even think of it like that.
Yeah, they're the same colors as France, the United Kingdom, and the United States.
Wow.
The tricolor is the cringiest fucking combination ever. Except in the case of the DPRK, of course. But
and
yeah.
of course, the lovely logo we have on the screen for our podcast.
Don't look at it.
Yeah, but yeah.
So, do you guys believe that? I saw yesterday. So now it would be 4 days, but starting yesterday, Nigeria, with the backing of France and the United States, said that if order is not restored within 5 days, now 4, they will use military force. So basically, they're saying is they would invade Niger. And also, the Pentagon released a statement about 2 hours ago saying that despite what the, quote, military junta, unquote, wants, they will not abandon their base in Niger. So much for democracy and, freedom to choose or whatever. So do you guys think there's a potential here for a bigger conflict?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
It's
I think they'll probably
going
end up coming to some
bigger.
sort of peace agreement, and there won't be a conflict. But it's something that could easily go bad because if if Niger really wants the United States to leave the base, the only way they're getting them out of there is
with some water
shooting
guns.
at them. So,
Yeah.
and we know what happens when when a rock falls next to an American soldier on accident.
Yeah.
There are a couple of other European countries that do have troops stationed there in their own military bases. They include, of course, France, the United States, not European country, but they're there.
Yeah. They're Europe.
But Italy is also there, and Germany is there.
Wow. Well, they're a bunch of fucking losers.
Yeah. I think that the executives at Raytheon are visibly tumescent at the prospect of this.
They are.
Oh,
They are losing it. They are so excited.
They're hard
The
on.
line go up.
Like rock hard.
It's like lithium. Line go up.
You were ever going to play the stock market, this is probably the most easy money you ever made.
Oh my goodness. And it's just, the southern offensive in Ukraine is going so poorly. That's why it's not on the news anymore. But they got, this to talk about. New weapon contracts, more blood for the blood god. All that fucking good stuff. But I don't know. I would, so not to cut you off, but I would just love to see, Malay and Burkina Faso really join forces. And isn't it the president of Burkina Faso? He just quoted Che Guevara, didn't he?
Yeah, Patria or muerte.
Comrade Ibrahim, I believe, was the one who quoted Che.
Fucking Chad. He's a fucking giga Chad.
That's all it took to gain my full 110% support. That's all it fucking took.
He's coming out with some bangers, like banger quotes every time.
I mean, what can you expect? Sankara was a part of Burkina Faso, so channeling that.
Yeah, all across, because a lot of this went down at the African summit, Africa-Russia summit, and all across Russia, the people are just so excited over Comrade Traore. They're calling him the young Guevara, Sankara reborn. So the Russian people are pretty excited at this development.
So I am looking at a map.
The CIA is very excited too.
I'm looking at a map of Africa just to, it's been a while since I've looked at African, geography, because I'm a dumb American. But, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, and then Nigeria is to the south of Niger. And I believe Chad is against the coup, correct? If anyone knows that?
I don't know. Let me look it up.
Because I know...
I think it's Nigeria that's really against the coup.
Okay,
Yeah,
I know
I'm not sure where Chad stands at the moment. I know Chad has been fairly anti-imperialist in their rhetoric and actions in the last couple of years because they just nationalized a few key industries. But I don't know where they stand yet on this.
Because I had read that the president that was ousted in the coup had gone to Chad. So I was I'm not sure where they stand, whether they're in support of it or if they're just being neutral.
I don't think Chad isn't in ECOWAS. I don't think.
Okay.
I can check. I'll check a map.
I think
it
it's
probably
mainly
is.
like Western African countries.
No,
too.
it's not.
It's not.
Just because ultimately
Chad isn't in ECOWAS. But if I'm looking at the map right now, and it's Guinea, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger that are all suspended states of ECOWAS. So they're not allowed to participate currently in those decisions because ECOWAS actually operates, allegedly, the theory for them is that it's supposed to operate kind of like NATO / European Union, where they all cooperate with each other militarily in order to defend each other. So because Guinea, Burkina Faso, and Mali have decided to support the new government in Niger, right?
Yep.
All those countries have suspended them and are now it's like a ECOWAS civil war going on. It's kind of wild.
And I just wonder what the masses of Nigeria, if they are with their comprador government in their ill feelings towards their neighbors, and my suspicions are that they are not.
Right. I was gonna say about about a year and a half ago, I was working with some coworkers from Nigeria, and there was these huge demonstrations going on in Nigeria for the same exact thing that has been happening in Niger. Resources being overly exploited, sending out to the West, and Nigerians feeling like that they couldn't, have their own self-determination. And there was also a lot of criticism of the military's ability to fight Boko Haram, an Islamic extremist cell in Nigeria. Then, and that goes back to exactly how the United States operates. They don't actually conduct anti-terrorist operations to win. They do it to, make money, to sell weapons contracts. So I would go out on a limb here and risk my commie card to say that the forces in Nigeria who are pro-invading Niger are those who live in the rich neighborhoods of Lagos, multinationals, people who can go fly to England or Germany on a weekend.
Right.
They're not the poor of Nigeria. They're not the working class.
Exactly. For the liberals listening, this is basically Comrade Trailer is Killmonger, and the U.S. Stannis.
That was beautiful.
Where's the CIA character?
So, as this, because this conflict is definitely going to, or I don't want to say definitely, but I say very likely going to expand into much larger conflicts, potentially across the entire continent. Do any of you see the colonial powers cracking down on those states that have not really gone through coups to prevent another coup from happening in one of the other member states?
For sure. I think they're going to try really hard to do anything preventative, because even their mild mobilization in Ukraine is not going well at all. So if the United States struggled so hard to... The thing is, the United States is good at destroying countries, but they're not good at occupying countries. So if this war escalated to the point where the United States has to do boots on the ground, I'm sure, they, with their fancy weapons or whatever ammunition they have left, it's all been used in Ukraine, they could wipe out, military assets and infrastructure. But then are they going to then go ahead and occupy these countries? Again, we just don't have the resources to do it. So the alternative is, let's do preventative maintenance.
And I imagine France is going to go hard on that, considering how much uranium they have lost as a result of this coup.
Well, let's hope that
they've been doing preventative measures forever.
Let's just hope that the current strikes and protests going on inside France keeps them occupied for a while for Africa, gives them enough time for Africa to liberate themselves, and then fingers crossed, the working class of France overthrows France simultaneously as that happens, and we start having a socialist Africa, and we have a new socialist country in Europe. That would be beautiful.
Macron is probably pissing his pants right now. He's got the French people pissed at him, and the colonies are pissed at him.
It's literally
and the police union trying to
and the police.
Overthrow.
So he's like, he doesn't have his police force to enforce his policies on his own people. The working class is like, we're done with this crap. And then the country, you're getting all your uranium for all your power. Because what is it? France gets like 90% of its power.
40%.
40%?
Mm-hmm. It's still a lot more.
It's close enough to have to be a significant...
The contradictions are contradicting.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would not want to be him right now. If anything, I would take this moment to resign my post and just dip. Go somewhere else. And like,
go to my office and eat some lead or something.
Oh, shit. Wow. I mean, you're not wrong.
I mean, that's what all bourgeois capitalists that have power like that should do.
Pull a
But that's just
H-man.
me. Maybe that's just me being a tanky.
You
Fucking authoritarian.
How dare you impose your will? Man, some goober
I
was
impose
going
the will
off
of the working class.
was
That's
going
what the
off
working
on
class would have
me
wanted.
on my TikTok because I made videos about the situation, and he was just saying some bullshit. He's probably a bot at my FBI agent, and he was like, "Well, the new president has nothing to offer the people of Niger," and I'm like, "Okay, well, neither does." Okay, but the government doesn't have anything to offer. So what are you even saying right now? And I told them, I'm like, they simply impose their will with force onto the population, and that's just that. And liberals and conservatives, but mostly liberals who are conservatives, don't they can't wrap their brain around that, and they're like, "What do you mean you used force to get what you want? That's not right. You can't do that." Well, they did it, so.
What always kind of forgets about the fact that, going back to talking about them increasing their maintenance, right? Is that they've been doing this for decades. They've been assassinating protesters and political officials and literally extremely famous movie stars in Nigeria and other countries all across that specific area. So it's to me, it's like there's not much more they can do. You know what I mean? Like there's not much more they can do to maintain, and it's just that shit's falling apart. It's like it's getting to its end. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's falling. Machines
Like
coming undone.
they could get rid of fucking Ibrahim Traore and the new president of Mali and of all these countries, right? But it's not going to stop the fact that the current economic order is completely untenable, and no matter what they do, no matter how many people they get rid of, they're going to consistently have the same problem and the same types of people coming up.
Exactly.
And that there's gonna be a point where we're seeing right now where they can't fucking hold on anymore, and it's gonna collapse. Like the people are gonna win. Like it's just how long are they gonna be able to hold on to it? Know what I mean?
I mean, just like with we'll call it the first wave of colonial collapse in Africa, uh, after the events of the Second World War, these empires just could not hold on in the way they had before, and they had to change their strategy. But this time, there's not really a strategy to change to. They're going to take their countries back, and Europe's just going to deal with it.
As they should.
As they should.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
wise comrade once said, "Shoot, coward! You're only going to kill a man. You can't kill the idea."
Goes hard.
And as Cutie was saying, it's not
Obama said that, right?
I hate you.
Oh, Ronald Reagan said that, you commie. Jeez.
You guys are a bunch of communists?
Yeah. It's just the Marxist analysis of it. You can't, you can knock off, the leader of one of these particular countries, but you're not changing the material conditions. So the people are going to continue to rise up because nothing is changing for them. Even if you knock off their leader, they're going to eventually come back and keep coming back.
Well, that's the whole thing about being Marxist, right? Is we see the world materially. We do not see the world in fantasy, in idealism. So, as we were having this conversation earlier, if all the communists were killed and you burned all the commie books and, ushered in worldwide fascism, whatever, communism, Marxism is simply the observation of the conditions that humans are experiencing in relations to the way things are made. Really simplified that. And so one would draw to the same conclusions that, man, this shit's pretty fucked up, huh? And people would come up with new names for dialectical materialism or class analysis. It could be called fucking gooberism for all I care. But it would still glizzyism. It would still come to the same conclusion that capitalism, fascism, is obsolete. There has no material base in our reality anymore.
And that's why liberals just don't get it, because they ascribe to the theory of great men, and that's why they always target leaders, and and they're so dumbfounded and confused why the ideas just keep popping up. It's because they're not changing the material conditions. Like, we recognize that, the individual who leads the movement, right, at its face, exists as a result of material conditions, right? Not because of their complete independent thought. Know what I mean? And like, liberals just don't get this. Like, they think that, Ibrahim Traore or all these other people are just people that have come up with this on their own, and they want to do it for everybody. And as soon as we get rid of them, the sooner the ideas will fade away and never come back. But that's not how that works. It's going to keep happening as long as the current material conditions exist.
It's the thought, hey, all we got to do is get rid of Thanos. And if we go to liberal mind, all we got to do is get rid of Thanos, and then all the problems are solved.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that thinking is very fascistic, because fascism sells people a false revolution. If we just get rid of X group, if we just get rid of Y person. But unlike socialism, Marxism, fascism seeks to eliminate class, not by acknowledging the fact that there are classes and equalizing people. It seeks to eliminate class by pretending there never was class to begin with, and that your problems are your own fault, own individualistic is wow, crazy stutter. Keep that in. Individualistic
Go on.
choices. See, it was the FBI hit me with the stutter gun. But you guys knew what I was trying to say.
The MCU and its consequences have been a disaster for humanity.
Another example of what we're talking about, though, we're joking that the FBI took you out, but let's say they did. Let's say the FBI, the CIA, whoever, genuinely just took out all 5 of us. Another podcast like this will come about, and it'll keep coming about, talking about these problems, what's going on in the world, and wanting and the desire to spread the ideas to make that world better. Like, this doesn't go away by getting rid of individuals, and that's something an individualist cannot understand.
Well, that's why you got to vote.
But if they got rid of us, that'd be super not bad.
That would not be based
Sorry,
on Biden.
What did you say, Morte?
I said that's why you got to blow Vu no matter who. We got to keep the evil out of the White House.
We just got to buy ourselves.
I'd vote tomorrow if I could. I'd do it,
bro.
So,
well, I voted yesterday. He didn't call me.
I do want to share something from my personal life a little bit, real quick. So I was driving Uber earlier. That's what I do for work, is I drive Uber. And I had this older guy in my car. He was 59 years old, and he desperately wanted to talk about politics. And I usually try not to, because I'm working. I don't want to. And I'm one-on-one with someone in my car. I don't need any smoke or anything. But he was just like, I want to know what you think. I want to know how you view the world. I want to know this, and this. And I was like, all right.
Definitely a Fed.
Definitely a Fed. So I was like, I didn't straight up say I'm a communist, obviously. So I
try FBI.
Exactly. So I decided I called myself a progressive. So I was like, what's the furthest left I could go that's not going to get me shot in the back of the head? And he started complaining about, he said, well, you think people deserve stuff if they don't work as hard as someone else. And I was like, well, it's not so much that I don't think people that work hard don't deserve to get what they've made, is I don't think someone that genuinely hasn't done anything, like say, I use Jeff Bezos as an example. It's like Jeff Bezos has not delivered any packages. Why is he making so much money? And he started losing his shit on me. He's like, "What are you, a communist?" And I was like, "Oh, okay." Well, I was like, "Okay, so you know enough about communism to know that I'm full of shit when I call myself a progressive."
He took one look at you.
And he
That
was
actually
just like,
reminds me. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Finish.
he was just like, "Look, if you work hard, you'll get what you want." And then he starts going off on. He's like, I'm not backing up any of my It was a long conversation. I'm not going to go into all of it. But at one point he goes, "I'm not backing up any of my arguments with like data or anything. I haven't looked into it." And I was like, "Of course you haven't. I know you haven't. I know you don't know what you're talking about. You're just saying shit." And
You saw it on a Facebook fucking post.
And at one point, I feel like I got to him a little bit because I was like, well, if whether it be Trump or Biden or Obama or Hillary, like any of those people, is like, if they were truly for the working class, why is the federal minimum wage still $7.25? And he was like, $7.25? That's criminal. How is it that low? I was like, how do you not know what the minimum wage is? It's like, that's how detached he is from the working class.
Yeah.
He was adamant that his point was adamant that Trump and the Republicans have been great allies to the working class and have done more for the working class than anyone in the history of the planet. But he did not know that the minimum wage was effectively $60 a day.
Yeah, that reminds me of a story. So I've been slowly but surely radicalizing my primary family that I see often, and my little sister was at work, and she was talking about how, because she recently got denied, or they recently took her off Medicaid, and she got denied. Apparently, she makes too much money, but she goes to work part-time and she's in college. So I'm not sure how much money you got to be making to not get Medicaid. But anyways, she's at work talking about that.
It's more than 30,000.
Okay, and she doesn't make that. She was only working full time for like the summertime while there was break, and then they kind of like threw her off in that little circle. But she was at work complaining about it, talking about it to her coworkers, and she's like, "Well," and I always hit them with well, none of us really asked to be born here. I mean, why are we the only animals on this planet having to pay to live here? Shouldn't things like that be our human right? And she was, spreading the gospel of the great and the one and only Father Karl Marx at work, and so one of her coworkers is like, "So you're a communist?" And at first she said, "Well, no," and then I think she's been thinking about it, because I'm like, yeah, I think you're a communist, or at least you're starting to be one, and I think I'm just doing a good job so far. But yeah, that kind of reminds me of that story. Nobody freaked out on her, but she got called a communist at work, and she was not expecting that. She's like, that just makes sense to me. That sounds like common sense. That sounds like why doesn't every human agree with that? I'm like, you gotta educate, agitate. You gotta become a revolutionary. That's why you gotta subscribe to YouTube channels like the Kollectiv and comment on every single one of their posts.
That's step one, is subscribing and liking. Absolutely.
Super base.
Che did it. Fidel did it. Stalin did it. Lenin, all the great revolutionaries, Mao, they all started their political career and revolutionary career with subscribing to the Kollectiv podcast.
Exactly.
Larry meant to say Elon Musk, not Pol Pot.
We got Musk Pot in the chat.
But where's
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, to your story, it reminds me of I've been radicalizing one of my coworkers, and if you're from my job listening, this is a joke, but also it's not. Been radicalizing one of my coworkers who fortunately hasn't been exposed to a lot of liberal propaganda. She kind of missed the boat with like CNN and Fox News and all that. but she is just a very caring and loving person, to do the work that I do, that we do. And I remember, we had a very similar conversation. What started it all is, I work with special needs people. You guys know that, but for the audience. And one of our residents got denied a Medicaid appeal. And I remember, she was pretty upset about it because she really cares about these people. And she's just like, I don't understand. Like, they need, the whatever they needed, the procedure. And they got denied. And I was telling her, I was like, well, this is all, it's all about money. And that conversation begat more until eventually I told her, like, straight up, like, I am a socialist. And she's like, well, what does that mean? And anyway, as we talked more and eventually got her really into, these ideas of, like, I told her, like, there are people in the world, they're called communists, they're called Marxists, they're not anarchists, who are...
Good God, we're not anarchists.
I was waiting for you to laugh. No, I was waiting for you to laugh. I don't know if you thought I said they are or they said they're not anarchists. But anyway, jokes aside.
Unironically, both.
Jokes aside. Fuck. We'll catch this up. Anyway, so I got her basically to be like, yeah, no, everything you're saying makes a whole lot of sense. Like, I guess, I am a communist myself because all these things that you're talking about are common sense. Why can't people be provided for? Why can't we just give people what they need if there's plenty of resources? And I'm like, yeah, man, exactly. It's not that hard.
It goes to show how these ideas are natural. Uh-oh.
Exactly, and it's a lot of people would agree with a lot of these takes if you just don't use the big bad C word and S word, and they would most people, I like to think, are good people, and they would agree with this. I don't like to think that everyone's evil and backwards.
I will say I have met people where I don't use the S word, I don't use the C word, I just use general terms like, yeah, people should probably be able to go to the doctor and not have to go bankrupt to fix a broken leg. And they're like, oh, no, absolutely not. You need to take better care of yourself. And it's like, okay, you are just inherently a bad person. like it's not even an anti-communist thing. They just straight up are like, no.
Yeah, well, that's again the culture of hegemony and liberal idealism being imprinted upon us, unfortunately. So that person likely could have been a good person had they been born under different material conditions, but
they likely would have been.
Yeah,
they were rich boys.
Don't you commies know that socialism and communism won't work because of human nature?
Yeah,
it's been debunked, guys. Sorry to break it to you.
I'm packing it in. Fine. I'm going back to my bunker. Night. Good night.
You know what? Fuck it. I'm going to be a full-blown capitalist.
I mean, that's what we're doing with this
human
program,
nature.
Right? I mean, there's nothing worse than a capitalist that used to be a communist, because that person knows they know exactly how bad and how evil the system is, and they probably know how to manipulate and use it to a sick level degree, almost fascistic. And that's like nothing's worse than that, I don't think. I mean other than fascists and shit like that, but
I would say historically the most powerful fascists or capitalists have been ones that have studied left-wing theory. They have studied Marxism. They've read Mao, they've read Lenin, they've read all these people, not to improve the world because they like the world they're in.
Mm-hmm.
They just want to know how to combat it.
Mm-hmm.
You got to know your enemy.
It's
like we have to understand capitalism if we're going to challenge it.
Yeah, the bourgeoisie has an amount of class solidarity that we could only we should be envious of their level of class solidarity.
They also have less
because they fucking know what class they're in. They understand their material conditions, and they fight very fucking hard to
And
maintain them.
they know
know the
how
risk
easily
that-
they could lose it.
Right, and they know the risk that comes to that, and they're willing. They have shown time and time again that they will go to any length to not lose the power that they have, which is why revolution is needed in Minecraft, and which is why things can't be reformed and things can't be voted in. I'm sorry to break it to people who are pro-electoral. It just won't happen. I'm sorry. The bourgeoisie would not allow it to happen. I mean, they would just FBI anybody who even gets a good amount of support, and they're spouting revolutionary, theory. So
Mhm.
they'd
Because, I mean,
they'd go to any lengths.
Because I mean, ultimately, if Africa truly wanted to be free, they would just vote out. They would just vote away the French and the Europeans.
And yet, that's directly contradicted, like I said earlier, when the Pentagon said they will not pull out their troops in Niger, no matter what the new government says. So you tell me where the consent is happening there.
Mhm.
They
Exactly.
clearly haven't voted yet.
But have they got out there and talked to their? I can't even fucking say it.
Haven't reached out to their constituents, guys. Come on.
Gonna write a strongly worded letter. The Marines can't read, bro, so I don't know what we're gonna do.
It's got to be written in crayon.
I am 12.
I think the best part is there's probably only like 60 guys or some shit like that in that base.
Yeah.
But actually, the American base is quite large.
Only need 2 mags.
I think, because I'm pretty sure Italy has 100 people. Like Germany has like 100 people there, but the American base I think is like a couple thousand.
Of course. They're
1,100.
Yep.
the Yanks are like the new cockroaches. They're fucking.
Oh, speaking of numbers, John F. Kennedy Jr. was posting some numbers today on Twitter, or the other day. Anybody want to catch up the viewers as to what
Oh,
those
you mean
numbers were?
Robert Kennedy Jr. because
Robert
JFK
Kennedy
Jr. is
Jr.
at the bottom of the bay.
Oh yes, I mean Robert Kennedy. I'm sorry, not enough of them have been shot to the cranium. So
Robert Jr. is very mask off. He's using a lot of dog whistles. So like in the tweet we're talking about, he specifically used the 1488 dog whistle. And then historically, he's also been using things like, oh, we got to take on the banks. We got to take on the cabal of elites. Like all these other anti-Semitic dog whistles.
He straight up said in 4K that the COVID virus was genetically engineered to affect black folks and Europeans, and it was engineered to not affect Chinese people and Ashkenazi Jews. This guy is a mask off fucking fascist.
And
no way he actually said that. Jesus
he said
Christ.
that right in the open.
Yeah. So he is both subtly using dog whistles, but also just blatantly saying it because he can. He's not going to get a lot of for the Democratic Party. They're not going to really do much. They've already decided they're running Joe Biden, but he's also using that as a platform of, look, they're silencing me. He's using all the same tactics.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to pull it up.
And that's, it's just the ratchet effect of we're seeing more and more far right ideology becoming normalized within the Democratic Party. That's why people just they say, oh no, it's the Democrats. They might not be perfect, but they're not fascist, and they don't understand what fascism is as a system. It's the open and antagonistic, mask off moving of the ruling class. It has nothing to do with a particular party or an ideology. It's something that a ruling class will use in times of crisis to enforce and keep its power. It has nothing to do with a party. Either of these bourgeois parties can go fascist.
Oh, breaking news.
Oh.
I typed in RFK Jr. As of 12 hours ago, he is suing YouTube and Google for censoring his interviews. But he specifically called them a state actor. It's the deep state. Like he's just using Trump and far right rhetoric. And
So
just like they're always right wing, and it shows just how much the Democrats will just continuously go farther and farther right as well.
Scratch a liberal,
A fascist.
please.
here's the tweet. Since the assassination of my father, based in 1968, candidates for president are provided Secret Service protection, but not for me. Typical turnaround time for pro forma protection requests from presidential candidates is 14 days. After 88 days of no response, and after several follow-ups by our campaign, the Biden admin just denied our request. And then he says a bunch of other bullshit. But, bro, 1488 is right there. Like,
Yeah. Now, what some people were doing, they're like, okay, well, maybe it's just a coincidence that was there. Another tweet had come out, or I guess an X had come out, where it showed that it took 59 days to get it. And it's like, okay, well, he blatantly just picked the 88 specifically to do the dog whistle. Like, he can't even hide it. Like, that's not the real number that it takes to get that security.
yeah, no, he is very intentional. He's showing who he is. He's another white guy who can say and do what he wants, and the political apparatus will protect him. He will be talking with Ben Shapiro in no time.
So how many liberals do you think will just straight up support Robert Kennedy because they don't like Biden, but they still want to vote Democrat?
Well, liberals typically support fascism, so I'm going to say most.
There you go. And that's the point.
Mm-hmm. All right, boys. I think we did it.
You think we did it?
I think we did it.
It is getting that time. I think we talked about everything we want to talk about, unless there's something else someone wants to bring up.
I mean, real quick,
we covered everything.
Before we go, we didn't really talk about it beforehand or anything, but we could talk a little bit about the aliens going on.
Oh, yes.
Bro, I'm trying to abolish capitalism. If the aliens won't help me do that, like,
it's crazy how like people haven't actually reacted the way the government expects them to react.
They're like, hey, aliens, and the entire country simultaneously went, motherfucker, I can't pay my rent.
Yeah.
I think we should definitely talk about it. We could talk about this for probably like at least an hour next week, because there's plenty of random shit. Especially like the connection with, like Prasadism and fucking aliens.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
That's good.
Beautiful. Then I think we did it.
It's a case of the government just throwing stuff at the wall and hoping that one of them distracts the public enough.
Right.
There's something definitely going on. Probably China, agitate a war with China again.
Like, I'll leave it at this, where it's like the government said, hey, did you hear that there are aliens? And the general public said, what did you do? What did you do?
You know what? It's funny, right? Because like 4 days before the Niger coup and the aliens were running around New York City, I said to my wife, I said to my wife, I was like,
my deal was running around New York City.
I said, pay attention to the news. Yeah, man. I said, pay attention to the news. I said, the government's definitely up to some shit. And look.
So there's gonna be some bombshell report in a minute.
Yeah. It's gonna be like R.F. Kennedy gets abducted by aliens outside a White House, blames Jews.
And they've got Hunter Biden's coke. All right.
All right.
I think that's it.
Okay.
Yep. Next week we'll be
Yeah.
talking about how the aliens will be giving us the fucking space means production. They're gonna be giving us the technology for the revolution.
And how
Wow.
we will be able to join the galactic union.
Working class federation.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Galactic Union meeting. All right, boys.
So thank you everybody for coming, for being here and watching us. Make sure if you look at any of our links, like in our bios, you can look at mine. It'll direct you straight to our YouTube channel. Everybody here is currently working on stuff, their own videos. Right now, Ivan has his own video. It's already out. We have plenty of the other podcasts, so just make sure that you look at that too.
And I'll give you a forehead kiss. Yeah.
Excellent. So, host, you have the floor.
I'm going to stop the live here in a second. Just want everyone to remember, we will win.
Base.
Always.
Cringe. No, I'm kidding.
Lamau.
We didn't